What's up, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Hey, I wanted to do a really quick video going over some of my favorite YouTube channels, or at least some of the YouTube channels that recently I've been watching pretty regularly. This is a question I get a lot, is what YouTube channels do I watch? So I couldn't really say that I necessarily have favorite YouTube channels, but these are some of the ones that I really enjoy watching and that I kind of keep coming back to. All right, so by the way, I'm out here today looking for traces of an old wagon road too. So if I find anything really interesting with respect to that, I'll obviously show that to you guys too. Well, check this out. I just found that broken piece of porcelain in the ground. Oh yeah, look at this. Here's another one. Yeah, we might be onto something, guys. There's a couple of pieces of porcelain there. There's a reason those are laying. Anyway, let's get back to it. What are some of the YouTube channels I'm watching right now? Well, first one that I watch pretty regularly is actually a buddy of mine, Dan, that has the Ochiko Bushcraft channel. So that's Ochiko Bushcraft on YouTube. He does a lot of kind of survival bushcraft related things, a lot of good tips on surviving in inclement weather conditions, a lot of stuff about shelters, and then just some fun little exploring adventures too. Yeah, nice little lever, right? So that's the first one I'm going to tell you guys about is Ochiko Bushcraft, and that's Dan's channel over there, and he's local. He's in the same area as me, so you might see some real similar terrain, but he does most of his stuff up in the forest. All right, so the second channel I'm going to tell you guys about is a little bit different. It's called Hot Saws 101. I can't remember the guy's name on it, but that channel is all about chainsaws. So he's felling trees, testing out different chainsaws. Great tips for anybody that does much work with a chainsaw. It's not like what you would call polished production or high quality production or anything like that, but just seems like a really good guy, and it's just really, I really enjoy watching it. So that's Hot Saws 101. All right, so the next one I want to tell you guys about is another one of those channels that it's not a big channel, but I really enjoy it. It's called Digging the Old West with Bottle Ned. And Bottle Ned's kind of cheesy, a little bit corny, but he does videos of, he's down in, like, I think the San Francisco area or some big city. And anyway, what he does is he does videos of basically digging and finding old, like, privies and old ruins in the cities. A lot of them are under like construction sites and things like that. And then he digs down and he finds the old bottles and the pieces of old history under the ground. And I think it's just fascinating. And he finds some really, really cool old bottles. So that's Digging the Old West with Bottle Ned. Next one I want to tell you guys about is one called Northwest Bronco Oregon. And Northwest Bronco Oregon is actually run by a guy that I've gotten to be friends with. We've been out on a trip or two, I think a couple of trips together now, but he does very similar type of adventures to what I do. He goes out in a lot of the same areas, finding old traces of lost history, old homesteads, things like that. So that's Northwest Bronco Oregon, and definitely go over and check out his channel. I think any of you guys that like my channel will probably really enjoy his stuff as well. Another channel I really like, guys, is one called Born 100 Years Too Late. And again, this is really different. It's not in your overlanding genre. This is an older guy that goes out and does trips on horses and mules, but he goes out, he finds some pretty cool historic sites, rides in some pretty scenic areas and everything, and it's just something different. But I really enjoy, I grew up packing on horses, packing elk camps back into wilderness areas and things like that, so there's kind of a nostalgia to it to me. But the other thing is, a lot of the fundamentals of that horseback camping are really kind of very similar, or a lot of it is shared with like old school bushcraft and camping. And I just really enjoy the guy. He's just laid back and mellow. So that's born 100 years too late. Whew, it's getting to be kind of a biting wind out here, so step into the sun here for a minute. So another one, and this guy's channel's actually really grown over the last couple of years, but it's Junkyard Fox Outdoors. He does basically desert camping videos. He's got another guy that does some of the trips with him, and they go out and there's just cool music. The music is done by, it looks like a good friend of his that does some of the camping videos with him. But they go out and they desert camp. They go on little trips together. He talks a lot about survival and everything, but he's just got a nice laid back vibe. He does longer videos too. So that's Junkyard Fox Outdoor. Another channel that I really enjoy watching is called ther Exploring. And this guy's whole channel is about, well, primarily about exploring old mines. Ah, look at this. Little set of coyote prints there. So anyway, back to the regularly scheduled programming. ther Exploring is all about mine exploration. They go way down and explore in complete detail these old mine sites, and I just really enjoy watching it. They go inside the tunnels, down shafts. They do a really thorough job of exploring, and they just find some massive mines to explore too. So that's ther Exploring. Look at this, guys. That's an old tobacco tin. It's interesting, pieces of old history like that. Like, it just always makes me wonder, like, what was the story behind that? Was that just an old cowboy riding out across here in the early 1900s and took his last, rolled his last smoke out of his last little bit of tobacco while he was riding on his horse across here, and then tossed that empty tobacco tin out here on the ground? Or is it a sign that we're getting close to some kind of a homestead site or something? All right, the next one I want to mention, and you guys definitely got to go check this guy out and give him a watch, is a channel called Traveling Bottle Digger. And I either don't know or I can't remember the guy's name, but he's up in Canada, and he does, in some respects, very similar to what I do. He goes out and he treks through the backcountry and he looks for old signs of old homesteads and things like that, but then he digs the old dump sites, the old homestead dumps, the old farm dumps, and he digs for old bottles and does a good job of kind of narrating the adventures he's on, and you can tell he just absolutely loves it. He's a pretty funny guy, and then he always does a recap at the end of his videos, which I really like, where he goes over all his finds and talks about them and what year they are and shows them in greater detail. So that's the Traveling Bottle Digger, and definitely encourage you guys to check him out. Another channel I really enjoy is called Not Thursday, and Not Thursday is a channel that's just all about metal detecting. But again, I like the guy really talks about the history, so you follow him along metal detecting. He metal detects a lot of, I guess, what you would call, you know, kind of post-Revolutionary War era, colonial era sites. And he's back east somewhere, I believe. And so that's really interesting to me. I think, you know, I'm out west where some of the oldest history where I'm at is from, you know, 1848-ish or something like that, at least the post-European settlement history. But back there, they've got history that goes back hundreds of years, a couple hundred years. So that's Not Thursday, and that's all about metal detecting, his metal detecting and exploring adventures. Getting down on the list a little bit further, a channel called Rob Parsons. I believe he's in Tasmania, and he does a lot of videos about gold prospecting. He goes out and prospects for gold back in the backcountry, but he also does a good number of videos about him finding and exploring historic sites. So he goes back into the, you know, what looks to me like kind of jungle, forest, completely different kind of country. And then he's looking for signs of old mines, in some cases old towns, mining towns and communities. Follows an old wagon road. Then he's looking for old foundations, rock walls, and he kind of explores these sites where there was some kind of abandoned history, and then puts the pieces back together of what was there. And that's exactly what I do out in my country, or what I love to do the most. And he does a lot of long form videos too, 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So that's Rob Parsons. So those are really some of my favorite kind of small channels. And then I thought I'd throw out, you know, a couple more like honorable mentions, or channels that I watch fairly regularly from time to time. But these are bigger channels. I don't know if they're to that size where they still read their comments or what. That I couldn't even tell you. But Waypoint Survival I enjoy. He does a lot of kind of vintage, hobo era, camping, survival hacks, cooking, things like that. Desert Drifter is another channel I really enjoy. He primarily explores down in, I guess the Southwest. I'm thinking that probably a lot of it is like Arizona, New Mexico maybe. But really, really cool. He goes into these cliff dwellings, finds a lot of rock art, a lot of petroglyphs and pictographs, and again, long form videos. We have nothing like that in the Northwest, and to me that's just fascinating to watch. This next one might throw you guys for a little bit of a loop. It's called The Townsends, or Townsends. It's a lot of kind of 18th century colonial era stuff, but it's everything from, you know, stuff about the gear and the rifles they used, to stuff about the cooking. He does a lot of cooking stuff on there, which I find really interesting. Like, you know, what did Revolutionary War soldiers eat, or things like that. And then a lot of times he actually cooks it, finds old recipes from the 1700s and replicates them. So that's Townsend's. Again, another different one, but very, very interesting. So man, guys, there's a lot of really good channels out there, but that's a few of them that I watch. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. That's a few of the channels I like. Please do go give them a watch, drop them a comment, tell them you heard about them from Coyote Works. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it's something a little bit different, but I'm going to get back on track looking for this old wagon road, and hopefully there'll be a video on that coming up. Anyway, guys, as always, appreciate you watching. Thanks for your support. Look forward to your comments, your questions, and above all, look forward to catching you on the next one. Coyote Works, out.